Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to get started in about 5 minutes or so just sit tight, and we will get this moving in just a minute.
Testing. Hello, hello.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our May SalesLogix Breakthrough webinar. Today's session is on Use Your Data, 10 ways to get the most out of your data using SalesLogix Analytics. My name is Jen Van Pelt. I'm a Senior Marketing Associate here at Infinity, and I'll be your host for today. Joining me are two members of the Infinity team, Roy Wong, our Director of Business Intelligence, and Scott Snyder, Vice President of Professional Services. Roy has over 10 years of data warehousing and business intelligence experience and has been the technical lead for several Fortune 500 data warehouse implementations. He's also well-versed in over 6 different market-leading BI tools and is now responsible for the execution and technical direction of Infinity's business intelligence practice. Scott Snyder has been with Infinity for 14 years and has been involved in more than 200 successful CRM implementations across a wide range of vertical markets, including financial services, life sciences, and media and publishing. Just a reminder before we get started, all of our lines are muted and will remain so throughout the call. So if you have a question, please submit it using the GoToWebinar console on the right of your screen, and we'll be sure to answer everyone's questions at the end of the presentation. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Scott to get things started.
Great. Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you, everyone who is dialed into this webinar. I think I know many of the names on the list, and it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you all. So today we're talking about data. Obviously, a very hot topic when you start talking about SalesLogix is what can we actually do with the data that's in the system when you're actually trying to help entice your users to enter proper data. What you hear back in return as well, what am I going to be able to do with it? And we have, over the course of the last couple of years, really been exploring some different and very effective ways to pull data from the SalesLogix database that really allows you to get much more additional value from the system. Historically, when we talked about getting data out of SalesLogix, it was your query builder, and then you could either use the results within SalesLogix or export it to Excel, or running your standard Crystal reports. But we do, with the latest technology, both within the SalesLogix web platform as well as within some of the analytics tools that we've been using, have really been able to take it to the next level. So we're going to go through 10 of the ways in which we've found our clients been able to get data out of the system very effectively. The first two are sort of built-in SalesLogix functionality. The first being the SalesLogix web dashboard. For those of you that are on the latest web client, you either may or may not have started to use these. But this is a really good, effective way of getting data out of the system. It's part of the core SalesLogix platform, so there's no extra cost to it. And it's something that you'll be able to develop yourselves. Even power users are able to do this. It doesn't require an actual development skill set in order to be able to do it. But if you look at your SalesLogix web client, you'll see on the welcome page you have My Dashboard and you have Sales. And on the My Dashboard, users can control all of their different elements that they see here. So they can put the quick actions, do you know, links to other things within the system. So You have the ability to put like whether or not you have training material or other sites that your users want to be able to very easily add those sites and create links from them to them in the system. Here you'll see my notes, so I can actually create groups, use my groups within SalesLogix and promote them to my dashboard so I can see the top groups that I want to see when I log on. Maybe it's open opportunities that I have or contacts that I should be speaking with today, so I get those lists within here. And then I also have charts, so much better than seeing just your standard tabular format. I can start to see different data in a more in a graphical format and be able to drill in on specific records. So with relatively no customizations, very easy to use, your users can take advantage of the SalesLogix web dashboards out of the box. And it is really a nice feature to give users when they're first rolling out or when they first have upgraded to the web client so that they can really start to see a benefit and get a little bit more intelligence over their data. In the group links, as I showed you a little bit earlier, a very easy way for users to say, okay, here are my top 5 groups on the different levels that I use, and let me promote those to a dashboard. So that's the data that I really want to focus on when I start my day. The next one is using SData, and specifically we're talking about using SData with Excel. We've shown, in previous webinars, we've shown a few examples of using SalesLogix data via SData, whether it is you're building a SharePoint site or a custom web application internally that you want to be able to show certain customer data. We showed actually in the last webinar being able to view SalesLogix data when looking at activities within Outlook, basically tying it directly to SalesLogix from within the Outlook interface. Today we're going to talk about actually using SData to pull the data into Excel. This takes it beyond your standard, let me build a group and export that group to Excel, which is a multi-step process, to really being able to have Excel spreadsheets that pull the data directly so you don't even need to go into SalesLogix to pull it. So a quick overview, what is SData? It's a lightweight web service released by Sage for SalesLogix. It has the same entity model as the web client. You code once and use in various applications. Allows for CRUD operations against SalesLogix entities. So basically what it's doing is giving you a way to access the data that has your entity model in place, it has your security model in place, so you don't have to rebuild any of those things. You build it once for the web client, and based off of what user is trying to access the data, it honors that same type of security. It is also the platform that they've used for their new mobile client, which I'm assuming, I think the majority of these people of the participants on this webinar have started to use that mobile client. That is the free mobile client that comes with the SalesLogix web platform over 754. And here's just an example of what you can do with that if we look at this screenshot. So here's an Excel file that we've created, and it's very easy. We can share this with any of you. But you'll notice within here you have a little add-on that says, okay, let me pull my groups directly from Excel into SalesLogix. So here you can see we've selected our group, the family account, and then within the accounts I'm going to select the group My Account, and it's going to automatically retrieve the data into Excel. So there's a lot of functionality that we can build that will allow users to create Excel spreadsheets and have the data automatically pulled or embedded within those spreadsheets. So those are two sort of built-in pieces of functionality that we have available for us with the SalesLogix web client in 754. I'm now going to hand it over to Roy, who's going to speak about some of the external options that we have for pulling that data.
Thanks, Scott. All right, so the question at hand, just to review, is how do we use SalesLogix Analytics to get the most out of data? I know you have all heard a lot about maximizing the value of data, discovering the power of your data, and a million other catchphrases, some combination of the word data and value. Totally boring, but totally true, and I'm assuming you all are on because you believe that. You believe there's a better way to look at data and then use that data to inform and present and make an actual decision. So I know it can be hard to quantify the impact of a missed opportunity, a better targeted campaign, shared insights, but we do know it can add up to a lot of money. So I'm just going to present 8 additional ways to use analytics to hopefully get some of your gears turning. It's only 9 slides, so it shouldn't be too hard to sit through. We have some demos thrown in there, and at the end, I promise you'll have at least one option or idea that you hadn't thought of before. Personally speaking, if at the end of a presentation I have an idea to get the gears spinning, I've considered it time well spent. So enough preamble, let's get some slides going. I'm going to start off by talking about tools. SalesLogix is splitting out its analytical capabilities into 3 different avenues. You have your traditional built-in dashboards, you have Spotfire Advanced Analytics, and you have Visual Analyzer 3.0. All 3 tools can solve a myriad of problems, but we do get a lot of questions from people asking us for our thoughts and inputs on what tool they should use and why. The quick answer is it depends. Total cop-out, I know. Both Spotfire and Visual Analyzer ClickView offer the multi-dimensional slice and dice and are very strong, possibly even the strongest in the BI world in pattern spotting and trending information. Both Spotfire and Visual Analyzer are based on BI vendor leading technologies, so they offer both great performance and great functionality. In the interest of full disclosure, Sage did contract Infinity to build out its new Visual Analyzer platform. We don't get any kickbacks or royalties, but it does speak to our technical competency. So from an Infinity perspective, we have market-leading ClickView and Visual Analyzer expertise, so we're big believers in the flexibility and potential that those tools offer. Despite that skill set, we do actually like Spotfire and believe it is a competitive and viable offering. In terms of number crunching and drag and drop field functionality, it's top-notch, also offers a competitive price. Our primary reservations about the product is that it's not particularly flexible in customizing or extending a solution past SalesLogix. The UI is a little tough to manipulate, and it's also a first-generation product. So for those of us in technology, we do know there's usually at least a few unforeseen issues that happens with any first-gen product. In terms of Visual Analyzer and ClickView, I'm not going to go too into that. Most of you should be familiar with it. I do think of ClickView as the Pro or Cadillac version of Visual Analyzer. It's non-intuitive, but one of ClickView's key strengths is actually that it's not pre-configured to be part of SalesLogix. So it allows us to do custom integrations while maintaining the ability to incorporate external functionality. So it does open up some very cool possibilities, some of which we will speak to in this presentation. So in the end, you all will have more decisions to make should you want to upgrade your analytical platform. More tools does mean more choice, which is almost always a good thing. If you have specific questions about a tool, what a tool can or cannot do, please feel free to shoot me an email, ask a question at the end, and I'll try my best and answer it for you. All right, so let's move on into ad hoc queries. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with Query Builder within SalesLogix. If I click in a group, in case you are not, it's basically a way to pick and choose some fields out of SalesLogix entities, specify some conditions, and then create a group. Here's a little picture of it for those of you unfamiliar. It sounds great in principle, but there's always a but. And here's what we've kind of got some feedback on Query Builder. It's hard and complicated to use. User base must be trained in database querying to understand how to join. Fields are difficult to find. Narrow condition definitions. It's slow. Only uses SalesLogix data. Difficult to export. You can't really customize it. So yes, it's great, but it does have a lot of problems. So what if we can do away with all of that and give users a tool that would allow them to generate their own tables and lists and then be able to manipulate that table or list however they want? You know, throw it into Excel, rearrange columns, group by any field. Think about just in practical terms how many reports that would replace. So if you're nodding along right now, you're probably like a big majority of our clients. So for data tip number 4, we want to give users a cleaner, more powerful, more flexible way to generate any table they want. So with that, I'm going to jump into a quick demo of kind of our new way. And let's see if I can get into the slide. So we're going to use Dynamic Table Builder. Like any good BI shop, we do practice and use what we sell. So we use ClickView every day internally to run our business. So I'm actually going to demo our internal application so you do know that it has some real-life viability. Of course, we have scrambled personal identifiers and randomized numbers. Not that we don't trust you all, but it's good practice. So it should be more than enough to get to the point. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into Query Builder here. So you can see right now it's already, ignore the things across the top, it's kind of our dashboard view. What we're looking at here in SalesLogix, in ClickView, is across the left, you can just select any field you want, and on the bottom you can select any metric you want. So again, not a lot of functionality, but it says, let's go ahead and select account as a field, and right now I have some metrics selected, life to date and revenue. So assuming you all can see, you can see how it's spun around. Now let's say I want an additional field of account rank, and there you go. Now you have account rank, and let's say I wanted to throw industry in there, number of activities. Again, it's just free-form clicking. It's automatically generating that table. There's a lot of advantages to this. You can IT can control it, so the fields, you know how they act. You can bring in external data. You can control. You also have the opportunity to go deeper into a level of metrics. In terms of grouping, with ClickView functionality, you can fast change into a pivot table. So once you even have a field like that, I can rearrange columns. Right now, I'm pushing rank all the way down, and let's say I want to collapse it and group it by that rank. So what I did was right-click, collapse, and now I'm grouped, so I can see the number of activities, the life to date, the revenue. So if you think about it, getting the right fields in there, getting the right metrics, we can start playing around and really create any table. You don't need to know SQL. You really just need to know the fields that you want to look at and the metrics, and then go on from there. So that's kind of just a little bit of the Dynamic Table Builder. It's faster, it's flexible, it calculates on the fly so you know what you're seeing, it's controlled. All right. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this whole idea of dynamic groups. So this is even simpler than a table builder. So a lot of SalesLogix users use groups to organize data and manage contact, count, and opportunity lists. Although this is great in principle, it is hard to narrow down those groups because SalesLogix, quite frankly, is more of a management tool. It's a CRM tool, so it's not necessarily, bread and butter, slice and dicing as much as in the UI. So that's where analytics comes into play. So as easy as it was to create those tables in that dynamic table builder I just showed you guys, it's even easier to drill down into specific data sets. So it's a natural leap to say, now that we can drill down into any data set that we want, how do we get that back into SalesLogix? So basically, it's everything I just showed you guys just with a button. Now, once we have a data set, I can take a filter, I can drill down, and I'll do a quick demo here as well, and then can throw that group right into SalesLogix. So table button list, and let me go back into the demo. So in something like this, there's multiple ways to filter. There's a global filter that searches through your entire database for any filter that you want. You have your drop-down list that give you sales teams or reps or whatever filters that you like. One of the other very cool things about this is when you even have a metric, and you can filter there too. So if I wanted just lifetime revenue greater than $1 million, let's go and do that and filter out everything else. So 400,000, I'm sorry. So you can see already now I can get custom data sets really with a couple clicks and then throw that into SalesLogix. So in terms of practical applications, where do you think this could come in handy? Think if you wanted to make a marketing campaign and identify the contacts you want to send the email blast out to, or you want to keep a watch list in SalesLogix of certain accounts you deemed risky. Now that you have tools specifically designed to identify and segment data, it's a really easy front end to start really creating groups and throw that into SalesLogix for CRM processing. All right. The next slide is about dynamic ranking. So this is something we love to use internally and then decide to spread that love out to the world. So here's a problem we're trying to solve. Let's say you have a sales rep and you have 50 contacts to call on. Or you have 50 open opportunities that are around the same potential and close probability. How do you decide which contact to call on? How do you know which opportunity is more important? What we can do with analytics is really take X amount of variables and then rank someone on those variables. So let's take that contact example. You have 50 contacts. You don't know who to call. Maybe we want to see how much business they've done with us, when we last contacted them, how satisfied they were according to the last employee survey. There's a bunch of factors that you can say this contact is more important than the other. So this kind of ranking lets us essentially choose the variable, and then even more impressively, we can then allow the user to change the weight factor on those variables so they can assign more importance to one factor over another. Internally, so I'm going to demo this as well, we actually have it hooked up to our accounts receivable system, so we can not only see who owes us money, but who we are most afraid won't pay us. So this is kind of an unusual thing, but again, pick the entity you want to rank, pick the rank factors, variables, and then assign weight factors to those variables. So I'm going to go in, and let's go into receivables. I'm going to go into what if, type analysis, and I'm going to clear. So you can see here on this screen, you have your account and the danger index. So the danger index is our flexible ranking, essentially, and it's taking into account all of these variables to the right. And then up above, where you see days due, percent owed, and dollar owed, I can change the weight factors of saying, if they're owe us money longer, I can change the days due so that factor goes up or is increased in importance. So again, very, very simple, flexible ranking. I can change weight factors. Now we can see ranks and prioritize it. So going back to the slide, prioritized data is useful data. It's not necessarily something you have to base all of your decisions against, but it is a very valuable point to help you organize the data and start looking at it a certain way. Mobility. So mobility is I'm sure, a term everyone has heard, and I do believe this is the future, and eventually every BI vendor will have a competitive offering. So how do you make sense of mobility? What should you look for in a mobile solution? We really think it's three things: performance, ease of use, and lowest IT maintenance cost. Because we're on a web meeting, I can't really demo a phone or iPad application. But suffice to say, all the analytics we do develop are fully mobile compatible, and it's important that they are. Analytics isn't going to be chained down just to a desk. There's a lot of valuable information, and it really needs to be where you are, not where your desk is. So we do leverage ClickView as our base for our analytics. So we have a develop once, deploy anywhere platform, which means when we develop something for SalesLogix, it's already mobile compatible. That being said, IT still does need to enable mobile access so that you can get it on your phone. And we usually do recommend some front-end design changes to take advantage of the smaller form factor, but there is no redevelopment or even redeployment if you don't want to. It's really, really easy. And where we see kind of our sweet spot in mobile has definitely been the contact profile. Like when you're on the road and you want to see vital information about a given contact. Because ClickView is so good at aggregating data from multiple data sources, we can provide a client with opportunity snapshot with all sorts of analytical goodies like performance trending, last contact dates, performance against averages or benchmarks, invoice history. You can also show the client real data out in the field, show how they stack up to their functional industry or size equivalents. And you can really follow up words with charts or visuals, which really helps and is a differentiator out in the field. Okay, the next topic that we're going to go through is embedded analytics. Embedded BI, because BI is only relevant when you can see it. So the idea behind this is that people are very impatient now. They want analytics in context of what they're viewing. So traditionally, you do have a separate button or mobile platform. The theory is if you can give them analytics and data while they are viewing an account or contact or opportunity, they may be able to use that data to glean additional insight. So if you had a separate page to navigate to, they might find the additional clicks not worth the effort. So once we develop dashboards, we can essentially cut up pieces of it and put it in as an additional module in an account view or a contact view. So let's say you were on a contact and to find their contact information, you can look right at their analytics tab and it tells you you haven't contacted them in 8 months. That might slightly change how you word your email, or let's say you're on an account and you see that they bought 6 products. And other clients who have bought those products have also bought X. That would be an extremely valuable talking point where you can talk to the account about it. And even better with analytics, you can then say, let's drill down into companies your size. Maybe they just bought 1 or 2 of those products and the others aren't applicable. Clearly, there's a lot of options. So the idea being within context, embedded BI, when you're looking at a contact or an account, you can use embedded BI to get additional information, additional data points, things to help you do your day-to-day job. All right. The next one is collaboration. And this is something that really hasn't got a lot of buzz, but something we personally at Infinity do believe in. We believe in the power of shared insight. So if you see something in a chart or trend, chances are that someone knows something you don't or can help you make sense of a data value or trend. So, we really believe in the power of teamwork and shared knowledge, and using analytics collaboratively really opens up how people use data. And more people start using analytics, it's really a win-win. So sharing means 2 things to us. It means being able to interact in the same session, and it also means being able to take notes on something you've seen and then have another person log in and be able to see that note. So in kind of some of our new solutions, you'll see a couple different things. Share session. This allows you to have multiple people on the same kind of web analytics session. You both can click around, talk about on the phone what you're seeing. It's not an additional license cost for that extra user. It's really just sharing your view. And almost in like a go-to meeting, you both have keyboard control, keyboard and mouse control. You both can click. You both can talk about that analytics. And the second one being notes. Being able to take notes on specific charts or objects, and then when others log in, they go, oh, this looks weird, and you can see someone else already wrote a note. So let me show a quick demo, and then I'm actually going to go into our web implementation for this. So again, this is kind of our dashboard. So let's say I see this top account, and I go, oh, why is that our top? Apparently, it's a little too long. So let's say I go into this top account and I want to add a note. So you can see here I can add a new note. And I can go our top account. and then I can add the current year-to-date. Looks a little off. Could you take a look? And then I could also take a snapshot to see. Now I'm going to close. Now when somebody comes in, they can go ahead and say, let's show notes, and they can see, there's a note associated with that. And then you could also do little hover-overs to say there's notes that really give you in-context help. Again, the idea being you don't know everything about data. You might just want to make a note of it, have somebody else go into session with you. Now with notes and share sessions, analytics is really kind of a team activity instead of just one person taking a look at the data. And the last one is email integration. Because contact analysis means communication analysis. This is really a simple idea, and one we personally are surprised no one has really taken advantage of until now. One of the most valuable repositories of data in any company is your email. So much important communication is held through email now as opposed to the phone back in the day. So when we talk about data analytics, we rarely talk about email and how that can provide additional input into analytics. So our crack development team has built a custom Outlook connector so that our analytics can pull directly from Outlook. So you don't need to do the syncing or anything. We can literally look for email addresses and associate that almost real time to our analytics data. So the most obvious use case of this is, again, the contact profile. When you drill down into a contact, you can get a view of the last emails, see scheduled activities, and communication without having to rely on CRM integration. It doesn't need to be in CRM. As long as you have the email address, we can start pulling in email data. So some less obvious impacts are social media hooks, like Twitter and LinkedIn, anything with an email address, and keyword analysis. Keyword analysis is an interesting one. That's really looking through, now that we have all this textual information, maybe we want to reinforce certain behaviors. Maybe if you win deals, certain phrases are used, certain words. You can really start learning about your interaction and communication patterns by saying, you use X word a lot more in these types of deals than others. Maybe you start getting a sense of which industry words are more important to use, really start talking about the terminology. So now that we have this entire new data repository available to us in the form of emails, with email integration and keyword analysis, you can start reinforcing successful sentences, words you want to use. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I believe I'm going to throw it back to Jen for questions. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of some new ideas and some ways other companies are really using SalesLogix Analytics to drive the next generation.
Well, thank you, Roy and Scott. We had a few questions actually that came in during this session, but if anybody else has any questions, feel free to enter them in the console as we're going through a few of these. Not sure if this would go to Roy or to Scott, but one question was, how did you come up with these 10 points, and how did you decide what is useful from an analytics standpoint?
I can take that one, Jen. Thank you. It's really interesting. It's our clients. So we crowdsource almost, for lack of a better term, our analytics, in that we use analytics day to day and get some there, but it's very client driven. When they have a specific problem, that's usually when we get our development team involved and start thinking. It's all industry out in the field type research. So everything that we do from an analytics standpoint has real life applications and is based on a specific customer problem that we solve with it.
Great. Question number 2 was, when people talk about BI, there's been a lot of buzz around words like cloud and big data. Could you speak a little about those trends?
Sure. Cloud was a really big term a couple of years ago, and it's certainly still relevant in BI. What we have seen, though, is it hasn't gotten necessarily the traction that a lot of people thought mainly for a couple reasons. Number one, analytics data is usually very important to a company, and they're a little leery about putting it out into the cloud, not just from a security standpoint, but from an access standpoint. So that data can be analyzed in so many different ways that they really like to have it in-premise, get their own little custom views, and really their own analytic space, and they find that having it in-house is a little bit easier. That being said, there still is movement towards the cloud, and the number one thing to keep in mind is really having custom data connectors. Usually you need to go through web services or APIs, so just build that into any implementation if you are thinking of going cloud. Big data is something, again, I'm not sure how relevant it is to the people on this webinar. That being said, it's very interesting in that it's essentially processing enormous amounts of data with little rules. So there's a bunch of tools coming out, and we certainly have kind of our footprint or on the pulse of big data. That being said, in our opinion, it's probably 5 to 7 years away from really coming into practice because there is so little structure around the massive volume streams happening.
Okay, and our last question. Do you guys have best practices on how to secure data on a mobile device?
Okay, and Scott, I'll take this one as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of best practices out there. A lot of our clients opt to go kind of that Citrix or remote environment route. So they go into their server, they open up a hole in the firewall, and they go through that, and it's kind of like a remote environment. A lot of banks and other companies, when they go mobile deployments, kind of go through the vendor approach, like a good data. There's some third-party vendors out there that offer VPNs. We have a host of case studies and documents about how other companies have done it. There is no set and true approach. I would say it's much more consultative based on your IT environment. But there are 3 or 4 go-to approaches I would probably recommend depending on your specific situation.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Roy, again, and Scott, for joining us for this session, and thank you for your answers to all of our questions. We hope that everyone enjoyed this session. Again, just as a reminder, the winner of today's Amazon gift card drawing will be announced via email tomorrow. So good luck to all of you, and look for that in your emails. And also, the recorded session will be available on our community site tomorrow afternoon, so look for that. I'll also be passing along a link to a PDF of this presentation as well, so stay tuned for that. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.